Our next speaker is Melissa. The reason I'm introducing her is when we were going around and putting together the intergroup earlier in the year, I had a chance to meet Melissa in Noonan, and ever since that, she came up to the Together on Tuesday meeting a few times and asked questions and was hungry, and just there was a certain fire in her the way she is, and we really appreciate that. And so that is one of the reasons we've asked her to share today. So, Melissa, it is yours.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Like that? Yeah. Now can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. Is that good? Oh, wait. Hi, I'm Melissa. Hi. I came here from Noonan, and I am from the Saturday ACA group. Wow, what a great meeting we are having today. Oh my gosh, what a celebration. And the puppy. I love that puppy. So, yeah, I wore my celebration pants today. Yeah. Because I'm celebrating everything that we're here for. So this is great. What brought me to ACA? Well, I'm 49. I was born in 1973. My mom's side was from Hawaii. My dad's side was Caucasian from California. They met and married in Hawaii. I didn't know, but he was her big opportunity to get away from Hawaii. And they conceived me there. After they got married, then they flew away. And I was born in New York, and then we flew away again, and we lived in Zaire for 4 years, and then back to New York, where my sister was born. And when my sister was born, I think that's where things got wonky. My dad was really unhappy being a dad. He was a very nice guy, but he was a drunk, and it just wasn't cut out for him. And my mom got real resentful, and she was like an untreated Al-Anon, I guess you could say, and she became very manipulative and like a liar, and so he started cheating, and so she became like this self-victimized part, like, oh, I'm from Hawaii, I'm all by myself here with these 2 kids, and my husband's drunk and running around in New York, and it was really hard on her, but she eventually she went from being a victim to being the one to being really afraid of. She was the one. So I was born with a really rare genetic bone disorder, and my sister came out perfect. And so I got a different kind of treatment from my parents than my sister did. And looking back now, I realize they probably should not have had children. And it's a part of a big reason why I didn't have any children, because, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so what brought me to ACA? So abandonment and neglect, physical abandonment from my father after my mom realized he was really running around and being drunk and everything, and so far away from Hawaii and our family. She kicked him out, but she told us that he had abandoned us for the family down the street that were all like tall, skinny, white Barbie dolls, and that we were, the not white, ugly, short family down the street that he didn't want anymore. So she really, really pumped us full of false information, or pumped us full of information that she wanted us to believe so that she could feel better. And so I grew up believing that that was that physical abandonment from him. No doubt he was an alcoholic. And then the emotional abandonment from my mother. I grew up in a really, really strict Asian household. And yet we were completely alienated from our family in Hawaii and my father's family because my mother would never let us have anything to do with them. And then, so we were just kind of like this little family in New York, completely isolated. And that was very difficult because we only had my mother to set the rules. And that sucked. So emotional and physical abandonment, extremely low self-esteem. But the big thing that brought me to ACA, or that has kept me coming to ACA in the very beginning, was the laundry list number 12, abandonment. For me, that seeded all the other traits in the laundry list. Like I probably wouldn't have the other traits in the laundry list without number 12, that abandonment from living with sick people who were never there for you emotionally. That did it for me. And I remember, well, the first time I ever went to an ACA meeting, I went because my friend wanted me to go with her. And she said, will you come to this meeting with me? It's called ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. And I'd never heard of it before. I'd gone to like a couple of Al-Anon meetings in 2010, and here it was 2021, and I'd never heard of ACA before. And I said, I think you're talking about Al-Anon. And I said, and she's like, no, this is called ACA, and I'm supposed to go to it. And I said, she didn't want to go alone. So I said, okay, I'll go, but I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as ACA. I mean, yeah, so we went, and I really thought I was in a cult for the first time. It was kind of creepy how weird and quiet and small the room was. There were no windows in the room. And anyway, they went around the room and introduced themselves as adult children, and I didn't know what that was. I couldn't like wrap my mind around it. And I said, hi, I'm Melissa, and I don't know if I'm an adult child. I don't know what that is, and I don't know if I belong here. And that was my first thing. And then they opened up the folders and they started going through the things in that laundry list. Oh my God, like, it just, all my, pardon me if I tear up. All my private secrets that you don't share to anybody, or that you even like verbalize to yourself, that was in the laundry list. And I couldn't believe it. And I felt like the floor falling away. And at the same time, there was like a spotlight on me and I couldn't breathe. And in fact, I kind of feel like that now. I literally could not believe what I was reading. Somebody could have known me so well and put that in a book, in a folder, and then in this little book. I mean, it was like everywhere. And I was really just there for my friend. Anyway, that's what got me into the ACA rooms, and that's what kept me coming back. My quick history, just to give you a little bit more background, is so my parents divorced, physical, emotional abandonment. I was a child with very low self-esteem, no friends, and having had this bone disorder, I had like several physical characteristics that made me feel like an outcast. So I had a religious trauma because the Asian side of my family is very religious, so they sent me to 2 different Christian schools, and I graduated from one, got a full ride to Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, run by Jerry Falwell, and I quit that, and that sent me running away from church and Christianity. And now, for many years, and even now, the Christian church is really not a big part of my life. The woods are my church. So, but not my higher power. So, yeah, so the seeds of abandonment and all of that were planted in me, and I ended up marrying a man who I suffered worse treatment from than I was ever raised with. And I often wonder, like, how did I end up with this guy who was so completely violent and addicted to everything under the sun? Cigarettes, alcohol, cocaine, me, sex, meth, prestige, my money, He was a financial predator. He was a liar. He was addicted to lying. Anyway, like, how did I end up with somebody when, like this, who was so much worse than how I ever was treated as a child? And I didn't connect that until ACA, is that the seeds of abandonment and emotional neglect had all, like, occurred in my, like, very young childhood, and then manifested in that marriage. That marriage really fucked me up. And I had a miscarriage, thank God, during that marriage. And that's when I realized that I should never, ever have children, because if I had a child and produced it, I knew I would not stay with that fucker. And if I had a child, then I would always have that fucker in my life. I might love the child, but I would always have to deal with, like, the person who I made the child with. So I decided then, right then and there, I wasn't going to have kids, and that was probably the best decision for me, as I was a very bad decision maker, and I often still am. Anyway, so that first husband, I think that's where I grew up. It seems like I came out of the womb with PTSD, but I think it was that first marriage from the time I was with him from like 25 to 36, and I was always very naive and sheltered, and he was literally like the first person I met when I moved to Georgia, and he introduced me to all kinds of things that I had never been exposed to before, and we weren't even dating the first time he punched me. And it was just that first time I got out of the car and I was like walking away, because I was driving and he was in the passenger side, and then he just hit me really hard in the face. And so I got out of my car and I'm like walking away from him. I'm not going to put up with this shit. And he was driving next to me for like 10 minutes, 4 miles an hour, trying to get me to get back in the car. I got back in the car, and I ended up marrying him, and he ended up hurting me so much worse than that. I can't, so I don't really even like to think about it, but we ended up buying a house. It was all in my name. The house, the cars, all the credit card stuff. He was a financial predator. He was a sexual predator. He was violent. I got beat every single day. I ended up lying to my family about what was happening. I lied to like everybody. You know, I didn't want them to see like bruises, the state of the house, all the holes that he made in the house, the things he wouldn't repair. I couldn't repair the house. He wouldn't work, and so I was floating the boat by myself. It was really hard time, but the big thing to take away from that is that I lied. I lied to my whole family. I was lying to myself that everything would be okay. I was just kind of going along, and it was because I was afraid to be alone. And that fear of abandonment, like terror of abandonment. So I hung in there until, well, it was probably around like 2006. The problems at home were really bad. His addiction, and his addiction to sex things. I had thought I was like rescuing him, like I had that weird victim thing, like, oh, if I can just help him do this and help him do that, and we'll do this together, it'll be a great marriage. Well, I ended up being the victim of his violence, and I eventually became a victim to sexual trafficking that he put me through. And that's a biggie, because he really didn't have any money to pay for the drugs that he needed, cocaine and meth, and he wouldn't work. And so I was like really useful to him for that. So that, I don't remember the years really, but it was probably in 2008 when the real estate market started to crash, and I realized we were going to foreclose on the house, and everything was in my name, and I was going to die. That's when I realized I was going to die if I stayed there. And I still couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I was in this terrible marriage and it was so much like worse than my childhood. So anyway, I realized right then and there was my first spiritual awakening that I had to leave him, and very, very soon. So I did, and to make a really long story short, I ended up somehow moving to Georgia. Leaving him, after I left him, I moved on Sorry, my brain is confused. After I divorced him, that's where the therapist said I developed complex PTSD. And he had me believing, my ex-husband had me believing I had all kinds of mental illnesses. But it wasn't until I had to go through a domestic violence victims thing. And that's where they were like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. It was him making you think that it was all your fault and that you could be nothing without him. So anyway, so I had to go to Al-Anon in 2010, and I shared this briefly before, but I went, and I self-identify as an Al-Anon, an ACA, and as a codependent, but that Al-Anon meeting, when I confessed that I didn't believe in a Christian God and that I liked marijuana and that I thought it was a good, useful medicinal tool and just to make you feel better, my time in that Al-Anon did not last very long. It was it didn't work out for me in Al-Anon in 2010. So then, fast forward, and it was 2017. My parents got diagnosed with dementia. My fiance, my husband now, we were living in Norcross. I had this job and everything was great. And then 2017, my stepdad, in Noonan, he burnt the kitchen down. We found out he had Alzheimer's, and that they couldn't live on their own anymore. So in 2017, I gave up my job. We gave up everything we had in order to move down to Noonan and take care of them. And that's when the shit really hit the fan, because I realized I was returning as an adult child to this place where they didn't want me in the first place, and I was having to care for people to their death in a place where they didn't want me and they hated me. So he had Alzheimer's. He was not a great stepdad, but he never hit me or anything. He just didn't, there was no love there. He ended up dying in 2018, thank God. And then we realized something was really wrong with my mom, and she got diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. And so any filters that she had to be nice went away. And she became this evil, demented person, and her, all the shit came out. And so we were living in a garage workshop next to their big house in Noonan. She wouldn't let us use the bathroom in there because it was not a plumbed workshop. So we had to go to the bathroom in the backyard in the woods. It's woods like this. For 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. During that time, I got a lot of autoimmune diseases, and it wasn't until I started dying, the doctor told me I was dying of ulcerative pancolitis and Crohn's, that my mom came off some of her money, and I didn't have insurance, and I got to go to a doctor and have a colonoscopy and get on some medicine. My husband and I got married in 2019, and I'm really glad I married him, and he didn't want to have any kids either, so that was good. And it wasn't so I nursed her to death. She had this dementia that turned into her, she just was a crazy, evil maniac. And that my therapist said I was living complex post-traumatic, I was in the situation I knew I was in, and I couldn't get out of it until she died. And so she finally died, 2021, and I was so glad that she died. That was the first year, and I found ACA September, October, 2 months after she died. And so that first year in ACA, I was just I'm so glad she's dead. I'm so glad she's dead. And then, the second year, that's when a different kind of grief started, and so I'm going through a different kind of grief because of her death. So that's how I got to ACA, and that's why I'm still in ACA. My experience working the steps has been difficult, and it's not done. The first time I did it all by myself. The second round was even worse. I was in one step group that fizzled, and it broke my heart. It was like one of those balloons, and that was really hard because we didn't have any guidance in the area of town, the area of Coweta County. We didn't have any guidance at all. And so that first step group, we just kind of made pretend as we went through the first several steps in the yellow book. We didn't have any, anyway, it fizzled. So this current round, I am very proud of. I found Al-Anon again last year, so it'll be 2 years for me next month in ACA. And then I started going to Al-Anon last year because there were no right options for me to have an ACA sponsor in Coweta County. And so I knew I needed like a mature woman who was actually going to be kind to me and give me some guidance. So I found an Al-Anon sponsor, and she's been a gift from heaven. She's like my love filter. We started the Al-Anon steps at the same time that a 12-step yellow workbook group and I came about. And we are concurrently working the steps together. My step group in ACA is a mixed gender group, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. And we'll just cross each bridge as we come to it. And because I think I'm in regarding the steps, I'm in the 1, 2, 3 waltz. I don't know if anybody else here has heard of it, but it's the steps. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then, can I have 10 more minutes? Okay. What were you talking about? So I'm in this 1, 2, 3 waltz. Every time I really get emotionally into step 4, I hit a wall and I recoil and I run away, probably because the first time I did the steps, I did them by myself in the dark, evil, wet basement of my soul. And it's horrible. I do not recommend doing the 4th step by yourself alone ever, especially if you're new in ACA, or really ever. And in my experience, the Yellow Book, 4th step, it doesn't offer me the asset recognition that I need. And so working the steps concurrently with my Al-Anon sponsor, who provides me like that love boost that I get, has helped me balance step 4 into a more healthy, emotionally healthy place for me and my step group. So we're kind of like inching along as we go at the same time. We don't meet at the same time, we just work concurrent. And then the thing that I've taken away most from my recovery is starting the Saturday ACA Noonan meeting. Stepping out of my comfort zone. I was in ACA about 1.5 years, and I'm a really great cheerleader. And I loved the ACA group that I was in. It was just that there were not enough options for sponsorship or really mature recovery. There was no intergroup yet. And so I had not visited any other ACA meetings anywhere. I thought this was like it. And so I got it in my head that I wanted to start a new ACA group. And it was a really big, scary thing for me to do. And there was some bitching and gossiping. And I actually heard people bitching and gossiping about me starting this new ACA group meeting. I won't get into that. But anyway, I said, I'm going to start a new ACA group, even if I have to do it all by myself. And I was scared, but I did it anyway, and I was never alone or unsupported, and I never had to be scared, and that was probably the greatest jump in my recovery. I still don't have an ACA sponsor. I just don't. It just hasn't gone that way for me. But that's been the biggest difference in my recovery. And then the promises that I've seen come true for me are probably boundary setting, self-forgiveness, and being more gentle with myself, like the self-blame, like the blame game, blaming myself and other people. But mainly setting boundaries. I was always a people pleaser. I would just say yes, 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 whenever I meant no. No, no, no. I couldn't say the word no. I didn't know how to. I was not taught any of the tools. None. I didn't have any of them. And I was held responsible for not having any of the tools, especially by my mother. And so I have I still am working. I'm struggling. I definitely struggle a lot. And even though I've gone through the Red Book, all these so many times, and I've made people tell me I've made leaps and bounds, but I'm still really, really struggling, and it's no joke. And but the promises are definitely that I can see the boundaries and limits that I need to set. I don't always set them, but I can see them now. At least now I'm more self-aware. And that's been a biggie, probably the biggest. Self-forgiveness has never been like my jam, but I'm trying, and just being gentler with myself. I tend to be very, very hard on myself and blame myself, and I am so forgiving of others, but I can tear myself down in like a heartbeat. Like by age 9, I was that term judge, jury, and executioner by like 9 years old, and I could just carry the weight of the world and blame it all on myself. So those are probably the biggest things. I've always known how to have fun and play and have fun in my life. I can, party all day long. So that's not really an issue. But learning to love people who can love me back appropriately and be responsible for themselves is a really big deal. Because I would attach myself to people who could not love me, or be responsible for themselves. And now at least I'm able to be aware. And my hypervigilance and my whatever you want to call it, being able to read a room from a mile away. An ACA can see another ACA from like 50 miles away, and we can smell each other. And I always find that one person who is not going to be able to take care of me, who is going to use me up and spit me out. At least now I am aware enough to be able to say, oh, yeah, you're that person, and back myself away and maybe set some limits and boundaries. So I think that's it. Yeah, thank you.
We'll have some questions, but I'm going to start off with a couple of them. So what month did you start? It was this year. What month did you start the new meeting?
Was it June? Spring, May, April?
So in your first meeting, and we'll count the second meeting too, how many people were in that meeting?
12.
12.
8. I don't know, it was high.
That's pretty good for a first meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely recommend, like, if you feel any feeling like your area should have more meetings, you should definitely do it no matter what anybody says. Like, that's your higher power going like, you should definitely do it. And I was so scared to do it. You know what I heard one person say is, oh, that Melissa, she just wants to have like an all the time birthday party for herself. Like, yeah, ACAs know how to like throw it around when they want to be mean. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's like tradition number 1, right? And so, yep.
We'll open the floor for questions. Again, just as we said with Rock, she may or may not answer your question. It's up to her. But if you have a question for Melissa, we'll go ahead and ask. Go ahead, Tina.
Thanks, Melissa. I really appreciate your share. So if you started first meeting with 12 people, where did you get those 12 people from?
Well, 2 of them were the women who, when I said I need a new ACA meeting because I'm not finding the recovery here at the one that I'm in, I really thought I was going to be alone, but I was not. And these 2 women, and actually a third woman, but you were on vacation, 2 women stepped up, and we became like the initial founders, so there were 3 of us, and we made sure we had the location, the dates, and did it online and all that.
So what sort of public information did you do? How did you get it out?
Oh, I made a flyer, and I told everybody that I knew,
Okay.
and we put it on the ACA World Service Organization website. And I can't remember if I'd met you by then. Okay, yeah. I guess Intergroup was just starting. Yeah. So I'm really good at being vocal when I know something is needed, and so when Intergroup started, I was like, we need sponsors. We don't have enough blah, 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 in Coweta County, and I made a really big deal about that. And look at what's happened. We have like this because I'm not going to say but because my higher power did the nudging, and I responded, and I trusted her. The Saturday ACA Noonan meeting started, and then people started a CODA meeting where there was none, and then somebody else started another ACA meeting in Carrollton where there was none, and then somebody else started another CODA meeting in Carrollton where there was none. So now we have 4 new meetings where before there were none, and it just tickles me pink.
one of the reasons we had a sponsorship workshop, actually, Noonan had asked for a sponsorship workshop. So
Yeah.
that's why we had it today.
Yeah.
Thank you, because we appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say how happy. Huh?
Yeah.
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 I just wanted to ask if you forgave your parents or not.
Definitely my dad. Yeah, I held him as like the number one bad guy because of things that I was told, and I believed them until I was an adult, and it's really only come through my work in ACA and doing the steps and attending meetings and talking with my fellow travelers and really doing like that heart-wrenching, like I said, dark basement of your soul crying stuff, that I have come to the conclusion that that I can forgive the person and not the act. And so mainly it's been forgiving my mother of of doing what she did. So I'm still a work in progress. I get really, really angry at her often. And so half the time, even though now I'm grieving and I miss her smile sometimes, I don't miss any of the things that would come out of her smile or her mouth. But yeah, I've been able to work on forgiving her a little bit more. I'm so glad she's dead. So yeah, it was time for her to die. And I am okay saying that in front of a lot of people.
I wasn't sure if you.
Well, anyway, oh.
Okay, there's a question.
CC, ACA. I was wondering, what was that process like for you to let go of like the shame and blame from your first marriage that you might have had for yourself, if you did?
Yeah, I did. I totally blame myself for getting involved with him. I couldn't understand why I would have made the decisions that I did and held on as long as I did. I blamed myself. I blamed him. There were times where I blamed everybody but myself. But how did I get through it? Was that your question? It took time and therapy and a lot of journaling and staying up all night and self-introspection, self-care. Probably moving to Noonan and having like a different direction. I had to, for so long my focus was like on hating this ex-husband who did all these horrific things to me that should never have been done or committed upon another human being ever. I was so long focused on that we suddenly came to a screeching halt in 2017 when both of my parents got dementia at the same time. And I had to come back to being like an adult child of parents who didn't want me around anyway and go take care of them until they died. So that was probably a big part. Like I just had to put it out of my mind, like put things on the back burner and deal with them later. But part of getting through it was that so many other women reached out to me after I ended the marriage and they were like, hey, I found you on Facebook. Are you the ex-wife of so-and-so? Well, he's got a bad temper. Did he ever show that temper to you? And I'd be like, oh, the truth I could tell you about him. And so it happened. Like 4 or 5 women found me on Facebook and he's committed these same crimes against them as well. He's even killed their animals the way that he did mine. When I left him, we had 6 pets. I could only take 3 with me because I left in a big rush. And he ended up killing the other 3. And he's done that to the other women that he's been with. And that's a very, very, very difficult and horrific thing to comprehend. I don't even like to talk about it. I don't like to think about it. And nowadays, I just found out, my sister and I just found out, they have like temporary shelters for animals for people who are going through divorces. I don't know if anybody else knew about that, but at the time they didn't have that. I didn't even have like the resources to take the other 3 and put them anywhere. I just had to leave them. I could only take 3 with me. I took 2 dogs and a cat. I had to leave 2 dogs and two cats and a dog with him. So anyway, that's probably the thing that I'm still dealing with the most is the aftermath of that, of my fur babies. But, and like I said, that's a good reason for not having kids. But anyway, so yeah, it's a work in progress. I'm still working on it. I'm in therapy. I'm in marriage therapy. I'm in all the therapies. I'm in Al-Anon, CODA, ACA. I'm in all of that.
Time for one more question.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you. It's been a great day. So much food and fun. Now I can really relax and enjoy my celebration pants. Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody.
All right. We're reset. We have Adam coming up to share his story.